Yes.
If it's possible to clarify briefly, I believe
Oh, you
you
just broke
had.
up.
Oh,
You broke up, so I
okay.
got as far as ask you to clarify.
I just wanted to clarify that our motion to quash Molly Zillig's subpoena is still pending, correct?
It is, yes.
Thank
Okay. So I have, if
you.
you're ready, I have 12. I'm not sure about 13. 38, 38, 39, 50, 51, 55, 56, 59, 60, 61, 63, 64, 66, 84, and 97.
Attorney Hitchcock Cross, are these documents that you intend to ask Sheriff Fall about?
Yes. Well, I mean, not
Okay.
necessarily all of them, but yes.
We would object.
Okay.
At this point in time, this morning, your offer of proof only offered 12, 51, and 61. And I believe the ALJ ruled that her testimony is limited to her role in signing the disciplinary decisions. So
Okay. I'm sorry.
to the extent that it exceeds 12, 51, and 61, they were not even raised this morning. And I think to the extent that it does not involve discipline investigations, it exceeds the scope of what she is being permitted to testify here about.
Okay. So let me rephrase my answer to that question. Is that the list that I just read out are the documents that we've brought forth so far in this hearing. That's the understanding of what I'm trying to produce now. I just generally to your question, am I interested in discussing these documents with Sheriff Ball? Yes, is the answer. I see that you may have some issue with some of those documents, and I understand that. But can we first just figure out if these have been admitted or not?
Oh my, okay. 12, well, Judge, would you like me to respond, or are you?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay. With respect to 12, it's only been an offer of proof so far, so we don't think that is warranted at all at this time. I don't believe 13 has been addressed at all. I'm attempting to pull it up right now.
That's the Facebook one.
Okay, I think you talked about it, but I don't believe you used the documents, introduced it, and so there's no foundation for that. 38, I'm trying to find a note on 38. I do not have it.
That was the Milwaukee
Oh, I
County
do.
memo.
That's the Trimboli memo.
Yeah.
And again, so there's no foundation for that. Captain Novotny testified that he did not author it, was not privy to any of the information in it, so we would object that there is no foundation. 39. Is the same document as
Page
38,
2,
I
yeah.
believe.
Yep.
Okay, page 2. So again, same objection. And page 30, and I would note that 39 was not introduced in the hearing. 50.
Sorry, just on that point, I disagree that 39 was not introduced. We went to page 2 here, for sure.
Item 50. Sorry, it's making me everything. Is the email without the remaining chain. I don't believe it was introduced, but it is incorporated into other documents. Again, it's Mr. Lucky's document, so I don't believe that a foundation has been laid for it yet. 51 is the one that we went through with, I believe, with Jim Novotny. Let me open that and see.
I don't.
No, I apologize. 51 was again just subject to the offer of proof with Denita Ball. So again, there's no foundation yet at this time. 56.
He also had 55.
Okay, I missed it when you read that out. 55. Mhm. Doing 56 because that's what I have open at the moment. I think Novotny did, so we would agree that 56 is
because look, I put MCSO.
could be moved into
all.
evidence.
She received that email.
I don't know. That's just her argument.
Okay.
So we do agree on 56?
Yes.
Yes.
55, again, I think Captain Novotny did recognize it. I think there's a foundation. We do agree on 55 as well. The next one is 59, is that correct?
Yep.
Correct.
We agree that 59 is properly moved into evidence. No objection.
Okay.
The next is 60.
Correct.
I think it's a duplicate of 59. I don't recall using it. I think it's duplicative, but the county otherwise has no objection. $61. With the exception of the Trombley memo is not part of that. So we have no objection to 61.
What word did you use with the exception of the what memo?
The
Trombley.
Trombley memo,
Oh, okay.
the attachment, which I don't think is actually part of your exhibit, correct?
No. The attachment is in 61, and we also showed the attachment separately.
Yeah, 38 and 39 are
Right.
attachments.
But I don't believe that the attachment, while it's shown as an attachment, I don't believe the substance of the attachment is.
No, we showed it to him.
But that was as 38 and 39, which we object to.
We also showed it to him at 61.
The attachment is not in 61.
The identification of the attachment as being a attachment to the email is in 61, and we discussed it thoroughly, yes.
So we have no objection to 61 as entered into, as shown on the screen. We still object to 38 and 39 as lacking foundation. 63, is that next?
Yes.
I believe it is a duplicate of 59 and 60, but otherwise the county has no objection.
64.
Again, I believe it's a duplicate of 63, 60, and 59, but the county has no objection other than duplication in the record, which I leave to your honor to decide.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, well, obviously it's your decision on all of these, but we have no objection.
Okay.
66, is that next?
Correct.
Chief, there is no foundation for this one at this point in time. It was made reference to in the offer of proof, but with no basis for personal knowledge on behalf of Sheriff Ball, who's the recipient. 84, is that next, correct?
Correct.
This is the one again where we objected to lack of foundation because Captain Novotny testified that he had no knowledge and wasn't sure whether or not he'd seen this as part of his investigation. So we object on lack of foundation.
97.
Is the last one? 97, okay. Which I believe is duplicative of the other ones to Novotny. I think it's 64, 63, 60. There's a whole series of them. I think it's another duplication of that. But to the extent that it's not, I suppose we object to the extent it wasn't actually brought up in the hearing and it's duplicative, but otherwise no objection to the foundation.
Okay. All right. And then earlier today, we did have Respondents Exhibit 27 marked, the PBR or the PRB decision as to the date of termination only. That would be marked as well.
My understanding, Your Honor, is that you accepted that as Exhibit 1, Respondents Exhibit 1.
I did.
What exhibit number
But
is that
then
for you?
it's Exhibit 27. After I did that, then I realized that it would be confusing if I didn't refer to them as the numbers that you gave. So I apologize for that. But I would like to refer to that as Respondents 27, just so that we're all on the same page.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you have any objection to that document, Attorney Hitchcock-Cross?
Again, we're talking about the decision, the determination of the PRB terminating Mr. Lucky for the purposes of the date only.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. So that's admitted for that limited purpose. I do not like trying to get in people's emails through others. So Exhibit 12 was offered just as part of the proof, the offer
Yeah, I
of
think
proof.
that's 12, 61, and 66. And I mean, to the extent that they were offered as proof, I don't think they're probably admitted yet. But just for clarification,
Okay.
that's why we included them.
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
we are going to ask Ms. Ball about them to be sure. So,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
Again, the county would object that that's already been ruled out. Not subject to the subpoena.
Okay. I'll have
Can
to
you say
take a
more
look at
about
it when
why
we.
these documents with her discussing Mr. Lucky's complaints wouldn't be the subject of the subpoena?
To rehash it, because she has no personal knowledge. She's the recipient. You did not establish she had personal knowledge of the underlying events.
Okay.
Well, okay. According to this, Exhibit 12 is an email from Denita Ball. So
Right, about a conversation, but then there's no evidence that she knows anything further about whether that conversation occurred.
Yes.
Okay. If you would like to validate it, that's fine, but we would actually stipulate to its authenticity if that helps.
All right.
In which case, I think there's no need to question her further on it.
Okay. So then you're objecting to Exhibit 13, 38, 39, 50, and 51 because they're of lack of foundation?
So I need to go back to 50 and 51. No, I believe 50 is, other than that it's duplicative, it's incorporated into 55, 56, 60, 61, 63, 64. I think that gets it's entered in several times. I don't have any objection to 51.
Okay.
Or 50 rather, I'm sorry.
50.
Other than its duplicative nature.
Okay. All right, I keep watching for someone in my waiting room. So hopefully.
Let me check my text because she did say she was going to be here 5 minutes early. So.
Okay.
Oh, she's okay. She lost the link. I need to resend it. I apologize.
Okay, no problem.
Actually, Rhonda, if you are on, Can you please resend the link to Sheriff Ball, because I can only do so through text and my text and computer don't talk to each other. Thank you. The Hitchcock Cross is left.
Okay. Oh, Sheriff Ball is in my lobby. Good afternoon, Sheriff Ball. Thank you very much for joining us. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. All right, so I'm the administrative law judge, so I will swear you in at this time. If you could raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Can you please state your name for the record?
Denita Ball, Ball.
And what is your current position?
I'm the sheriff of Milwaukee County.
And how long have you been sheriff?
Since October the 27th, I was appointed by the governor, and then my term actually started January the 2nd.
Okay. All right, thank you. I have no further questions at this time. So, Attorney Hitchcock Cross.
Okay. Ms. Ball, do you know Mr. Lucky in his capacity as a former deputy sheriff?
Not personally, no,
Okay.
but I was one of our deputies.
Okay. And did you have any knowledge of whether or not Mr. Lucky made any complaints at any time?
I would object. This is not the subject to which she was permitted to testify.
Can we start with the disciplinary actions?
Sure. That's just fine. So, Sheriff Ball, are you aware of whether or not the Sheriff's Department has disciplined Mr. Lucky at any time?
Yes,
Okay. And what is your awareness of that fact?
I'm aware of it because the discipline usually will come to me, and I review it and determine if there's enough probable cause that the person committed the internal, let's see, that they violated the policy in question, and therefore it should go to the sheriff for review.
Okay. And have you ever reviewed any disciplinary decisions for Mr. Lucky?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I said decisions, but at that point that you're reviewing, are they called decisions or something else?
No, they're called the investigation.
Investigation. Okay. So you've reviewed investigations for Mr. Lucky. That's fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. About how many have you reviewed?
I truly don't know offhand, but I would say at least a couple.
Okay. So that's at least two, fair to say?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, let's tell me what you recall about these disciplinary investigations that you received on behalf of or regarding Mr. Lucky.
It's been a while ago, so I know that I believe the last investigation was in reference to his activity while he was on a hospital watch.
Okay. And so if you'll bear with me for a second, and I'm sorry for interrupting you, because you have every right to answer the question how you want to, but for this purposes right now, we're going to move past that issue, okay?
Okay.
Good. I'm sure we could agree on that. So other than that, what other disciplinary issues are we talking about here?
I believe I recall one where he was insubordinate to a supervisor.
Okay. And is that, do you recall if that was sustained or not sustained?
I believe it was sustained.
Okay. And we're talking about, well, what's your knowledge of how he was alleged to be insubordinate?
Since I haven't reviewed the file and it's been a while, I believe he was asked to do something. There was a request made of the supervisor, and either he didn't do it or his demeanor warranted concern, and
Is she
therefore he
talking about
was
the,
written up.
okay. Okay. And are you involved in the, or supervise the internal affairs investigations?
No.
No. Okay. What is your relationship to the internal affairs investigations?
Once it's completed, re- it is sent to my office. Then I'll review it to see if there's anything that perhaps wasn't done that needed to be done, just to ensure that the investigation was complete and thorough. And then I'll make a determination based upon the investigation as to if the charge should be sustained, or um, if there wasn't enough in the investigation, or the investigation revealed that the person uh, didn't do it, then it would not sustained. So, in essence, I will provide a disposition for the investigation.
Okay.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
No?
Is this
Yes.
No.
is this your current role as sheriff?
No,
No, this is what you did as chief deputy?
correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. And who ultimately do you receive those investigations from?
From Chief Legal and Compliance Officer Molly Zillick.
Okay. And when she's sending you those documents, is she sending, what capacity is she sending those to you?
She's in charge of the Internal Affairs Division. She has oversight the pro- Professional Standards Division. She has oversight of that area.
So it's fair to say she's the supervisor of that area?
Correct.
Okay. So, what decisions, if any, does Chief Zillig make in regards to investigations? If you know.
I would say that she does a similar thing that I do. She looked to see that the investigation is thorough, it's complete, and she doesn't provide a disposition is sent to me for that. So that in that way, our role is different, but she is tasked with also ensuring that the investigation is thorough and complete.
Okay. Is it also fair to say that she proofreads the investigation, for lack of a better word?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So then when it's coming to you, you're ultimately digesting it and making the decision, at least the initial decision, of sustained or not sustained. Did I say that right?
Correct.
Okay. There's a lot of new vocabulary for me today, so I appreciate that. Okay. So, now, after that point, if you sustain or not, and we're just talking generally here, okay? After you sustain or you have a disposition on investigation. Is that the right word? Okay.
Correct.
After you dispose of the investigation, what's the next step, if you know?
Then it goes back to the Professional Standards Division. And if it is sustained, then it's, my knowledge, excuse me, is scheduled to go before the sheriff for review.
Okay. And then how does the sheriff review it, if you know?
So the cases he gets the investigation portion, but it's presented in a formal setting, and he or she would get an opportunity to ask additional questions. Um, maybe ask additional questions,
Okay.
and then based upon that, he or she will make a determination as to um, what the penalty should be.
Okay. And we're just talking about Sheriff Ball's tenure and your tenure as chief deputy. Will you accept that?
I will accept that it was my role as chief deputy, and then now as sheriff, this is similar to what we've done in the past.
Okay. So just focusing on your role as chief deputy, do you ever recall the sheriff asking any questions about the disposition of a case?
Yes, he has in the past.
Okay. Is it a frequent occurrence or an infrequent occurrence?
Frequent occurrence.
Okay. How about for Mr. Lucky?
I would have to say that I don't know because generally I would hear the attendance cases, and he would hear the other cases.
Okay. But you disposed of all the cases, correct?
I made a determination as to the disposition of the case.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm using disposed as a verb of disposition.
Okay.
Okay. So since I get that concept. So is it though, who was at that meetings with the sheriff for non-attendance violations?
Objection misstates evidence.
Well, do you know?
No, I don't know offhand because I was not in the room.
Okay.
Can I clarify, Attorney Cross? Did you mean for the non-attendance cases?
Correct. For the non-attendance
Okay.
cases.
Thank you.
Right.
I apologize.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification.
As sheriff now, do you know who's in those meetings?
Absolutely. There's a representative from the professional standards division. So generally, the captain of the division is there. The investigators are there. The office manager, for lack of a better word, is there. Um, the legal and compliance um, officer is there. If it's involving the jail, we generally will have a representative from the jail, and then the sheriff is there. And right now, because the chief deputy is learning the role, he has been sitting in on some of the hearings that we have had, but in the future, he will not be generally be part of those meetings.
Okay. As chief deputy, were you ever a part of those meetings?
Yes.
Okay. Who is Mr. Hughes?
He is the chief deputy.
Okay. And what was he when you were the chief deputy?
He was the inspector or the commander of the Police Services Bureau.
Okay. And who's the head of the jail now, if you know?
Yes, Director Joshua Briggs.
Okay. And so Mr. Briggs would appear in addition. I guess that's what I want to. If the accusation is against a jail employee, Mr. Briggs would then appear. Is that right?
Well, in the past, it's been Captain Dukert, and really here lately it's been Captain Dukert as well, who is the assistant jail commander.
Okay. Okay. So, I guess we narrowed down one example of a disciplinary disposition that you handled involving Mr. Lucky. and that was for insubordination, correct?
I reviewed the investigation and rendered a decision, yes.
Okay, and what was your decision again?
I believe it was sustained.
Okay, what was the outcome of that decision? Do you know?
If you're asking me, do I know what the penalty that was assessed? I do not, but it did go before the sheriff, and the sheriff at the time, who was Arnell Lucas, made a decision as to what the penalty should be.
Okay, and did you sign off on? Do you sign off on penalties at that time?
Let's see. It's hard. I believe I did.
Right.
Um,
So if
yeah,
I were to show you disciplinary documents for Mr. Lucky, they would bear your signature, wouldn't they?
they would bear my signature because I reviewed the investigation. I believe I did sign off on the penalty that was assessed by the sheriff as well.
So when you signed off, you had knowledge, correct?
I had
Objection. Can we clarify knowledge of what?
Yeah.
Okay. When you signed off on the disciplinary documents, you had knowledge of what you were signing off on, correct?
yes.
Okay. So it's fair to say that, in fact, you did have knowledge of the outcome of Mr. Lucky's investigation, correct?
I knew I knew that there was a penalty that was assessed, and I signed off on that disposition. To say that I knew what the penalty was and I remember what the penalty is, no, I can't say for certainty that I do, because I really don't.
Okay. So what's the documents? What are the nature of these disciplinary documents that you signed? What are the purpose for them?
So that if they need to, whatever the next step in the process, it could go forth. If it needs to go to PRB, there is a if there is a trying to think of the order that needs to be done, then that is completed so that it can go to the correct person. Those are the reasons why.
Right. So in fact, those documents that you signed would be given to the PRB, that's the Personnel Review Board, as part of the charging documents. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay. So to be clear, you saying you signed documents that were given to the PRB, but you don't know what the outcome of those documents that you signed is, correct?
I would object that misstates the evidence in case she doesn't remember what the discipline was.
So that's
He's
what
asking
we
as a
call
general
leading,
matter.
That's what we call a leading objection that states the answer that she wants the witness to provide in the objection.
Okay. Why don't you just rephrase the question and
Okay.
then I
Appreciate
think she
that.
can
I'm sure I can.
answer.
So we've clarified that this document that you signed goes to the frequently goes to the PRB for the purpose of charging people, and in fact, it authorizes that charge. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you also testified that you don't recall or didn't know at that time what the disposition of Mr. Lucky's disciplinary decision was by the sheriff. Correct?
That is not what I'm saying. I said that the sheriff rendered discipline. I signed the papers so that, or the documents, so that they can go forward to the next stage. What I did say is I don't recall what that discipline was, but I know that the sheriff did render discipline.
Okay.
He rendered a decision,
Right.
and so if he thought that it was, you know, training was warranted, or the person should receive a different penalty, then I signed off on that.
Okay. So then, is it fair to say that you signed off on the document without knowing what you signed?
No, that's not fair to say,
Why not?
because I know that that discipline was rendered, and so as part of my role to make sure that the process is moved to the next stage, I did sign the documents to ensure that it went on to the next stage.
Okay. But you don't know what it was that went on to the next stage. You just ensured that it went on, correct?
I know that the discipline was sustained and a penalty was given. And so, therefore, for it to move forward to the next stage, as my role as chief deputy, I authorized that.
Without knowing what you authorized, correct?
I think this is a little argumentative.
Well,
Thank
she
you,
needs to answer
Judge.
the question. There's no
I think
objection, and I mean,
Well, I understand that, Attorney Hitchcock Cross, but
okay, I'll take the
I,
feedback.
I will.
I think the
yeah,
point is made, and I think we're all clear on what's going on, and I don't need to press it any further. So we can move on if that will be okay with everybody.
yes, please.
Okay. Okay. So now we talked about the complaints against Mr. Lucky. Now can we talk about Mr. Lucky's complaints?
I would object that that is beyond the scope of the testimony permitted for this witness.
I would allow a few questions only insofar as whether or not she's aware of them.
Well, let's start with that. All right, that's what I asked you. Are you aware of complaints made by Mr. Lucky?
Aware of complaints made by Mr. Lucky. I'm aware that I received an email from Sergeant Gladney stating that Mr. Lucky has some concerns and he would like to meet with me regarding that. I referred the matter to Inspector Dan Hughes because it's proper to go up the chain of command. And I'm not to say verbatim what those concerns were. I can't with certainty say.
Okay. How did you prepare for your deposition here today?
Well,
I read
not a deposition, but okay.
I
How
read
did
a
you-
couple.
Sorry,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I read a couple of emails that was sent to me in the past.
Okay. And this includes the one sent to you by Mr. Gladney, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And at that time, what was Mr. Gladney's position?
A sergeant in the. He was a union president, but he was also a sergeant.
Okay. Was he contacting you in his relation to his role as sergeant or something else?
Objection calls for speculation on into the mindset. Well, calls for speculation.
Well, you admit that you reviewed the document, right?
I admit that I reviewed the email, yes.
Okay. So based on that review of the email, do you know why, whether or not Mr. Gladney was talking to you as his role as sergeant or something else?
I do not know. I don't know with certainty. I would assume that it was in his role as a union president because he knows that there is a chain of command.
Okay, let's talk about chain of command for a second. You have knowledge of the harassment policy, correct?
Do I have knowledge of the sheriff's office harassment policy?
That's right.
Yes.
Okay. And you were aware of all the provisions of that policy, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that policy allows a complainant to skip the chain of command, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is that what Mr. Lucky was doing when he went to ask for a meeting with you directly?
I do not know.
Okay. Why didn't you meet with him directly?
Because there was not any reason why he should, there wasn't any reason that was brought to my attention that he should not follow the chain of command.
Well, did you ask Mr. Gladney?
No, I did not. But Sergeant Gladney and I have a pretty good relationship where he would have said, you know, there is an issue here with the chain of command. So because he did not say that, I did not assume that there was.
Okay. Did what, if any, understanding did you have about the nature of Mr. Lucky's complaints?
I can't recall offhand.
Okay. So let's just talk about your role there as chief deputy. Okay. That if Mr. Gladney, who's a sergeant, can you let me scratch that question? How many supervisory hops is it from sergeant to chief deputy?
Your Honor, can I object for a moment? I think you were
Yes.
going to allow him a few questions to determine whether Chief Deputy Ball had any personal knowledge as to Deputy Lucky's complaints. She's already testified twice that she didn't. She didn't know the nature of his concerns, and she didn't get more information from Fred Gladney about anything requiring skipping the chain of command. As such, I think we can put an end to this and let Chief Ball return to her conference.
Well, so my response to that is she's saying that there was nothing to indicate why Mr. Gladney would, that there was any issue about jumping the chain of command. So we're trying to figure out why a sergeant is reaching out to the second highest ranked person at the sheriff's department. And if that's not an indication itself of jumping the chain of command as is allowed.
Already provided a basis for that. I apologize. I didn't mean to overstep, but to
No.
respond, she's already provided a basis for that. He's the union president.
He's the union president and they have a good relationship. Okay. Yeah, I think we're almost to the end of the questioning that I see here that she has personal knowledge of. Do you have any additional questions?
Yeah, let's look at some more emails.
Again, Your Honor, we would object to the exceeding the scope.
You've already stipulated to the authenticity of exhibit number 12. What exhibits were you planning on showing her?
66 right now.
66. Okay, a part of the offer of proof.
Well, it's also a
Okay.
document that was sent to Mr. Novotny that he then identified.
Okay.
Actually, Novotny is only on the lower part of it. He's actually not on the upper part of it. We've already
Sure.
discussed, well,
Okay.
Sure. He's on the forward of the message to Ms. Ball. That's right.
which is, yes, from
Right.
Inspector Hughes to Chief Deputy Ball.
Okay.
She is the passive recipient in this case. I believe this is delving into that area that we argued was not met by the offer of proof at the outset of the hearing.
I'm going to sustain that. I think we're veering a little bit farther off than I wanted to go.
Well, we've got this email here, and I just want to be clear on what we're saying here. We've got this email here from 6/21 of 2020 from Mr. Hughes to Ms. Ball regarding Mr. Lucky's complaints. So we've got in here that they're sending the complaint directly to Denita Ball, and we want to confirm that she got it. She says she has no knowledge. Well, why can't we confront her with this document sending her the Deputy Lucky Captain Tromboli's concerns directly to her that she says that she isn't aware of?
Without wasting more of the sheriff's time, it's a complaint being forwarded to a year and a half, several months after the fact, in response to something else that isn't contained in this document. And I feel like this is the fishing expedition that we are trying to avoid.
This is exactly an email sent from her. She's the author of the email. She's the decision maker here. And
She's not.
Excuse me, ma'am. This is also an email containing Mr. Lucky's complaint, like a description of Mr. Lucky's complaint. And she's saying she doesn't have any knowledge of Mr. Lucky's complaint, and now we're going to confront her with the evidence that she does.
The email is she's the recipient, not the author, and it contains no information about Mr. Lucky's complaint.
Great. I'll
It's
ask
that
another
this-
question. Miss
Okay.
Ball, do you review all of your emails?
No.
No. Okay. Did you review this email, any emails regarding Mr. Lucky?
If there is I know that is a complaint based upon the body of an email. Oftentimes, I would forward it to the Professional Standards Division.
Okay, and based on your
Because
review of the documents in preparation for your testimony today, what did you do with this, the complaint that was sent to you?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. Based on your receiving this, or sorry, review of documents and emails in preparation for your testimony today, do you recall what you did with this email that was sent to you?
So today, I looked at the email themselves. I wasn't able to read any attachment because of the time limit, and also because it was on my phone. So, and because I was in class, so I saw the email that Inspector Hughes sent to me, but I did not get a chance to review that email. I know it was something from Trimboli,
Okay.
but I didn't get a chance to review it because, again, I was in class and because of the time that it was sent to me.
Okay, so based on that review, did it refresh your recollection of whether or not you had opened that attachment at that time or not?
No, it did not.
It didn't refresh your recollection or something else?
It did not refresh my recollection that I had opened it, because I do see those investigations at the end when they come through my to my office.
Fantastic, because that's just where I was going. So, based on this email that was sent to you by Mr. Hughes, and the fact that you would have seen the outcome of the investigation before you disposed of it, what is your knowledge of the outcome of this investigation?
Can we clarify what investigation that would
Yeah,
be?
because I thought there were three.
No, we're talking about Mr. Lucky's complaints that was sent to Miss Ball by Mr. Hughes on June 21st of 2020. So
You mean the
that's what
complaints
we're
that
talking
she's
about. At that time, she got the complaint. She's saying that she doesn't remember the complaint and that she frequently doesn't review the complaints at that time because after it is dealt with by Professional Standards Division, she then reviews it again. So my question to her then is, based on your role as the final reviewer of the outcomes of Professional Standards Division, what is her knowledge of the outcome of Mr. Lucky's complaints? So there's to be clear, there's complaints against Mr. Lucky, and then there's Mr. Lucky's complaints against his coworkers. So that's what we're talking about, is what is her knowledge about his complaints against his coworkers and supervisors.
I would object that there's no foundation that she reviews those complaints. We talked about discipline complaints. We did not discuss other IA investigations. Also, she's already testified that she doesn't have personal knowledge of Mr. Lucky's complaints. So there's no foundation for this question.
Well, that's an interesting fact. Thank you for testifying that. I will ask that another way. So how would you characterize Mr. Lucky's complaint sent to you by Mr. Hughes on 6/21?
Objection. Mr. Lucky's complaint found it misstating the evidence.
What is it, a disciplinary complaint or something else?
So that complaint, just looking at the body of it, I would have sent it to the Professional Standards Division. They would take a review, take a look at the matter and make a determination as to if it's a HR complaint or if there's an internal investigation that needs to be done. And as a point of clarification, when I say I don't look at all of my emails, I get tons of emails that are not applicable to my job. If I look and see that something that will be going to, internal affairs or the Professional Standards Division, I may just send it to them, because if it's discipline, I will see it again when it comes across my desk. That was what I stated, not that I don't look at all my emails, like, you know, I don't, but I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, so do you think that this was an investigation that was right for HR, or an investigation that was right for discipline?
Action foundation.
Well, based on your referral to professional standards.
So, objection foundation.
Okay, yeah, I'm still a little bit confused
Okay,
when we.
I got that, and let me just back up one step here then. Hopefully that
Okay.
will resolve that. Are we clear whether or not you forwarded Mr. Lucky's complaint of 10/22/19? And I just want to be clear, 10/22/19, that's on October 22nd of 2019, right? Okay.
Yes,
And so when that being sent to you on June 21st of 2020, that would be approximately 8 months later, correct?
I sure.
Yeah, okay. So, and then the next question is do you recall what you did with this complaint made by Mr. Lucky? Did you forward it on to professional services or something else?
So the complaint that Trimboli authored, it was forwarded to Professional Standards Division. What they will do is make an assessment as to if it's a internal investigation that's needed because there's policy or procedures that were violated, or if it's more in the realm of HR, human resources.
Okay. And are you notified if it's more in the realm of HR, human resources, or not?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Were you notified in this case if it was in the realm of HR, human resources?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you recall if there was any, if you were notified that there was any disposition to this case with regard to discipline?
I'm
I
going to
don't.
object. I'm not sure what case we're talking about anymore.
We've only been talking about one case for the last 20 minutes, even though you keep asking that question. So
Well, you
we're
keep.
talking about Mr. Lucky's complaints. We signposted that a long time ago, that we moved on from the county's complaints against Mr. Lucky to now we've been talking at least now for 25 minutes about Mr. Lucky's complaints against the county. So we've also can call it the Tromboli one, but there's that one. In which apparently he made that on 10/22 of 19. There's also another one 8 months later that he made on, I guess, in June 21st. So it does seem like the bullying complaint, right? So I guess, Ms. Ball, are you aware of Mr. Lucky's Barbie doll bullying complaint?
I am aware of some aspects of it.
Okay, how did you attain that knowledge?
I want to say that Inspector Hughes shared that information with me.
Okay, and that was back when you were the chief deputy, correct?
Correct.
Why would he have done that? Do you know?
Because in his role as the commander of the patrol division, he is supposed to bring certain matters to my attention. And
Okay,
he felt that was one that I needed to be aware of.
so once you were aware of it, what did you do?
So once that I was aware of it, I would have, and I'm assuming that I did it in this case, asked that it be formalized as a written document so that it can be reviewed and assessed, and then the necessary not determination, but if it need to go to internal affairs, the professional standards division, it will be forwarded there.
Okay, to your knowledge, did that happen here?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you have any knowledge of any disposition after you were informed of that? Was there any action taken by the sheriff's department officially in response to Mr. Lucky's complaints about bees?
Objection, misstate foundation. Misstates the evidence.
Can you just rephrase that for me?
Absolutely.
Attorney Hitchcock Cross.
I will. It's often a big ask without a court reporter, but I can do it. So, Mr. Lucky, you were notified of Mr. Lucky's bee complaints, and then you testified that you would have, although you don't recall, have sent that off for more formal, something more formal than Mr. Hughes informing you of that. Isn't that right?
So when there's a verbal complaint such as that is made, then I asked that it be documented so that it could be forwarded for review.
Okay. And to your knowledge, do you know how Mr. Hughes became aware of this complaint?
Section calls for hearsay and speculation.
Well, she could say no if she doesn't know.
Yeah, she can answer the question.
I do not recall.
Okay. Did you ask him?
It probably came up in the conversation, but I don't recall.
Okay. So why did you believe that it wasn't formal enough when uh, when Captain Hughes informed you of this?
Because he was passing on the information to me, and so for there to be an investigation, there should be a paper trail. What the agreed person felt had occurred, so that the proper investigation can be done.
Okay.
It's hard to do an investigation based upon hearsay.
Is it fair to say that you ordered Mr. Hughes to conduct an investigation at that time?
No, it's not fair to say that. What I did just say is that for the information, whether he put it on paper or somebody else, the agreed party put it on paper.
Okay. Now, circling back to your knowledge as chief investigator, what action, if any, did the sheriff's department take in response to uh, the B complaint that you were notified of?
I'm not a chief
Action.
investigator, so I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Okay, sorry. So you're the chief deputy at that time. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, in your role as chief deputy, did you ever obtain any knowledge about the disposition of Mr. Lucky's complaint that you were aware of from Mr. Hughes?
I don't recall.
No. Okay. Are you aware of anybody, Mr. Lucky, making any allegations that his car was scratched?
I don't recall that.
Okay. Um, and what about? And I guess the one that we were talking about before was the Barbie doll. That's what Mr. Hughes made you aware of. Is that right? Or is that the B?
You mentioned the Barbie doll.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. So are you aware of any issues with Mr. Lucky and his coworkers or supervisors involving bees?
Objection. There is no foundation for this question. And I think, again, we want to renew our objection that this is beyond the scope of what is supposed to be permitted testimony. We are deeply into a fishing expedition.
Okay.
Not an effective use of the sheriff's time.
All right. So I'm just going to ask the sheriff a couple questions here. So now, are you aware of the disposition of Mr. Lucky's complaints? Did you testify to that?
No, I'm not aware of the disposition of his complaints.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else, Attorney Hitchcock-Cross?
Yeah, just briefly, what I'd like to do is to look at the Barbie doll complaint uh, and to see if the bee thing is in there. If those are the facts in the Barbie doll complaint are the facts that she received.
But if she doesn't, if she's not aware of any disposition of his complaints, it doesn't matter if it's about the bees or about the Barbie doll. Isn't that correct?
Well, I'm trying to verify if what she understood from Mr. Hughes is what Mr. Lucky reported to reported. So I guess I can ask you is when did you hear from Mr. Hughes about Mr. Lucky's Barbie doll complaint before or after you forwarded the Tromboli complaint to professional services?
I don't recall.
Okay. Okay, if you'll just bear with me, I know you're anxious to get back to your work. Do we have anything else?
No. The vehicle and the Barbie doll is the same complaint
I
in the
know,
email.
I know.
And I'm trying to see if I mentioned the bees in that complaint.
That's fine.
Okay.
I guess we'll ask her straight out.
But she mentioned, she said if the policy was violated, when I made that complaint, what policy was violated? I never made,
Good, okay.
she just admitted that, you can bypass.
Great, great. So, you just mentioned that you forwarded on the Tromboli complaint because of the possibility of there being a policy violation. What policy violation would that have been?
Well, we have a policy against harassment, and um, I I believe that bullying is a form of harassment. So that's what I was concerned about.
So you understand Mr. Lucky was making a bullying/harassment complaint at that time?
I saw the heading that said bullying. I think it was in quotes or something like that.
Okay, so that was the information on which you made that decision to forward it to professional
Yes.
standards? Okay.
Yeah.
Were you ever aware of Mr. Lucky making any race-based complaints?
I don't recall.
Okay, but it could have happened. Is that right?
I don't recall. So
Okay, so if it, for example, if it was in the Tromboli email, you would not have seen that, right?
I don't recall seeing the Tromboli attachment. So if it was in there, I don't recall.
And Mr. Hughes never notified you that Mr. Lucky made any race-based complaints about Barbie dolls?
Inspector Hughes at the time did discuss the Barbie doll incident. Don't recall if it was in relationship to race. It may have been, but that was a while ago, sir, and I truly don't recall.
Man, I thank you. I understand that you've got an important job to do and that Mr. Lucky is entitled to his witnesses, so I just want you to know that we appreciate you being here today. With that, I'm ready to pass the witness.
Attorney Lawrence, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sheriff. We really appreciate you taking the time out today. So you're free to go.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so it is 2:50. Do you have another witness to call?
Well, we had also subpoenaed here, I think we had Mr. Hughes and Ms. Zillig subpoenaed for today. So it seems like we need to talk to Mr. Hughes now.
Is he available? Do you know, Attorney Lawrence?
I believe he is. We will have to reach out to him.
Okay.
10 minutes, 5 minutes?
Yeah, why don't we take 10 minutes, come back at 3 o'clock?
Thank you, Judge.
Will do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.